Welcome to another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. Grab your popcorn, grab your drink, grab the kids, call your auntie, call your nene, call your granny, your nieces, your nephews, your neighbors, your friends, your relatives. Tell them Simon Says is on. Buckle up. We'll be right back. Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode. Welcome back. Welcome back. Now, today we have a few news items and we're going to have a couple of updates. Now, we're going to get into the meat of the matter. Now, making news, a public notice was posted yesterday, the 28th of August, 2025, by the Grenada Postal Corporation. I'm telling you, we had to keep our eyes on the Postal Corporation. This one is not really on them, but it's going to cause them to have revenue issues. And already they're paying a $45,000 rent for no reason. And even when if and when they move into the building, that's the kind of rent they'll be paying. And they have not been paying rent before. They're spending money. The manager and assistant and who travels all the time going where nobody knows. The manager has a manager because he's on Facebook daily posting and sharing and getting into the political war, right? So he's busy doing that and they have to get a manager to manage him. Let's get to the public notice. The Grenada Postal Corporation, GPC, advises that effective immediately, shipments for all parcels and small packages containing goods destined for the United States are suspended. Trump in retail. This follows new U.S. regulations ending the duty-free exemption of items under US $800, which now require prepaid customs duties and complex electronic filings. Documents only. Letters without goods will continue to be accepted. Parcels and small packages to the US are suspended until further notice. GPC is working closely with the international partners to restore services as soon as possible. We apologize for any inconveniences caused. Now, my thing is, how long did the GPC know of this? And why it was that persons who went to mail small packages to the US and was turned away and took to the airways. And after he was being called by an accredited journalist, the only one I know really that's playing that role, is when we get this notice coming out. Now, several courier services and airlines have halted transporting parcels and packages to the US. Called de minimis tariff exemption, it allows goods valued at US 800 or less to enter the US without paying the tariff. US Customs ruled on the exemption to buy cheap clothes and household items from online shopping sites. Letters of gifts worth less than US $100 sent directly from person to person rather than business to business to a customer will not be affected. This end, the global exemption wasn't, to this end, the global exemption wasn't set to come into force for another 2 years. And that's until July 2027. For some reason, it was hustled up and we got it 2 years before. The Grenada Postal Corporation got wind of this, as far as I understand, at least a month ago. I'm hearing it could be at most 2 months. But waited till now, as I said, till customers had to complain on radio because went down to the GPC with their box with a little ginger and spice, cinnamon and stuff in it, and got sent back. And that is when we got a notice from the Postal Corporation. In a press release published by BN Americas, we were told that a team from Grenada, headed by the Prime Minister, the Deacon Mitchell, met with Dr. the Honorable Rudal Munilal, Minister of Energy and Energy Industries of Trinidad and Tobago. The rest of the Grenada team included Attorney General Cinty's daughter, Mr. Rodney George, advisor to the Ministry of Infrastructure and advisor to the Ministry of Climate Resilience and Environment and Renewable and Energy, and Mr. Nazim Burke, chairman of the Grenada Hydrocarbon Technical Working Group. Now, I'm going to read to you a snippet from the article, and it says, Dr. the Honorable Rudal Munilal, Minister of Energy and Industries, met with the Honorable Deacon Mitchell, Prime Minister of Grenada, Senator the Honorable Claudette Joseph, Attorney General of Grenada, and Minister of Legal Affairs, Labor Consumer Affairs, Mr. Rodney George, Advisor, Ministry of Infrastructure, Public Utilities, and all the other ministries that the Prime Minister is line minister of. And also, he is advisor in the Ministry of Climate Resilience, the Environment and Renewable Energy, and Mr. V. Nazim Burke, Chairman of Grenada's Hydrocarbons Technical Working Group of the Ministry of Infrastructure, Public Utilities, Civil Aviation, and Transportation. On the 3rd of May 2025, at the swearing ceremony for cabinet members, the Honorable Kamala Prasad Bissessa, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, mandated the new appointed Minister of Energy and Energy Industries, Dr. the Honorable Rudal Munilal, to urgently engage the Grenada government for the government of Grenada with a view to fostering collaboration in the energy sector. In fulfillment of this mandate, the Minister of Energy and Energy Industries promptly initiated contact through formal correspondence, which culminated in recent in-person meetings between the respective parties. These meetings were held over a 2-day period on the weekend of the 23rd and the 24th of August, 2025. So we have oil and gas, or we don't? I mean, which is it? Our Prime Minister and the team, and his team is meeting with Trinidad to talk oil and gas. So was Dr. Mitchell's announcement in Pearls in 2018 an election ploy or not? Are we going to be We're going to hear something about that, or we're going to start working on oil and gas, and we're going to continue to tell the people of Grenada that Dr. Mitchell's announcement in 2018 was an election ploy. So what we hear here in Grenada and what's being done outside is totally different. First of all, they met and we were never told. We were not told that they were going to meet. We were not told that they met. And after they met, we were not told. This Deacon Mitchell-led administration is allergic to transparency and the truth. Also in the news, a pre-action letter was served this past week to Mr. George Worm of the New Today newspaper from Forrester Legal Chambers on the behalf of Dr. Ophelia Wells. Mr. Worm was served by bailiff Terence Regis on Monday, August the 25th, 2025. Now, I'm doing you this service because it seemed like what's it? Riders News. Riders News only brings news on Simon Says and Jenny Simon. Breaking news when it's Simon Says and Jenny Simon, that's when we get news, right? So it's a whole big bundle, and just to let you know that broadcaster, media person, Ian Allen in Trinidad, who brought this news from the New Today, repeated it, has also been served. And later on this week, there are others to be served. I'll leave that there with you. Also in the news, there are increased seismic activity at Kikan-Gini submarine volcano. In a media release from NADMA, and we heard from NADMA, but we haven't heard anything since. It reads, increased seismic activity at Kikan-Gini submarine volcano. St. George's, Grenada, Thursday, the 28th August 2025 at 2:30 p.m. The University of the West Indies Seismic Research Center, UWI SRC, has advised the National Disaster Management Agency, NADMA, of increased seismic activity at the Kikan-Gini submarine volcano. The unrest event began at 10 local time on the night of Wednesday, 27 August 2025. Approximately 800 tremors were detected during the period 10 p.m. on August 27th to 8 a.m. on August 28th. The largest events measured so far, are in the range of magnitude 2.2 to 2.4. There have been no reports of these tremors being felt in Grenada, while activity in continuing its intensity has decreased compared to the start of the unrest. The UWI will continue to monitor the submarine volcano and provide update analysis of the situation. Based on the information from UWI SRC, the alert level of Kikan-Gini remains at yellow. This means that all marine interests should maintain exclusion zone of 1.5 km. The last period of unrest at Kikimjini occurred between the 10th and 14th of February 2024, during which 3,400 events were recorded. The maximum magnitude then was 33.3, and no thief rays were observed. The National Disaster Management Agency, NADMA, will continue to monitor the situation and provide updates to the public. For additional information, please contact Mrs. Ruth Jacob, and that's the Senior Information Officer of NADMA, on 440-8390. Okay, and that's it for news. We are moving on to a couple updates. Now, I'm bringing this update to you early so that you are still fresh. I want you to pay attention to Ron Redhead as he represents the government of Grenada. Now, the government of Grenada to the nation and the world on the GBN To The Point program on Wednesday, the 27th of August, 2025. And according to the host, Wednesdays are being dubbed Government Wednesday. So explain to me why Ron Redhead, who is not a part of the government of Grenada, he was fired in January of 2024, a year and 8 months ago, is representing the government of Grenada on Government Wednesdays and speaking on topics he either has no clue of, or, like the Prime Minister and the rest of his cabinet colleagues, are just plain deceptive, or maybe a combination. He has no clue and they're plain deceptive. Now, in Ron Redhead's case, I can understand why he has failed his bachelor's, much less the master's he tried to do, and had to fraudulently have his grades changed. He has outdone himself this time with his dumb and dunce answers. And I make no apologies for saying that. You'd hear for yourself. And his blatant lies that he told to the nation and the world. People are being deceived daily by this Deacon Mitchell-led administration. It reminds me of Alibaba. Listen carefully to this clip.
That is affecting us all in Grenada today. Inflation. We know it's a worldwide issue right now, and there's inflation around the world and so forth. The cost of living and everything else it's continuing to rise. You go to the supermarket this week, it was at a particular price. You go next week, it's at a different price. I'm an avid coffee drinker. I went last week and I was like, oh, I had to stop. You understand? Just because the cost of it. You understand? 1 week it was at this price, and I go just the next. Because I drink it on a regular. I may need one every week. And I went last week, but it was at one price. Go back this weekend, and it realized at another price. And I took it a vast difference of almost $3 to $4. You understand? So it's important to do. What does government have? What actions I should say has the government taken, to kind of cushion these effects that it's having on the society as a whole?
Right. Well, I'll start off with talking about petrol, for example. So, for example, we have reduced the petrol tax by $2.50 since coming into office. We have also seen the removal of the cap of gasoline. And let me tell you what that is doing. Now, I have heard different people argue it differently. Now, the cap, what it used to do was to peg the price at $15.
Yes.
If it goes up, it is absorbed. If it goes down, it is not transferred to the consumer. So once you have that cap, you are removing the opportunity to get the transferable reduction in the cost of gasoline because you set it or peg it at $15. What we did was remove that. Given all the unforeseen circumstances, and removing the cap now helped to have consumers now start to absorb, in principle, the reduced cost of gasoline. Now, if we are to take average, at least in the last 2 years, gas prices have been trending downward, and the majority of occasions, whenever it is announced, is always closer to about $14. I am confident that if this trend continues, we could see gas prices reaching as low as $13 in time to come. But I'm saying that is one measure, and you have to monitor it. The Ministry of Finance is doing their utmost best to make sure that they're on top of it. They could predict or forecast is a better word, and to be on top of it. If it becomes too high, they can intervene. The other thing is that we have zero-rated VAT on a number of items in the last budget. The one previous, we did that as well. We have seen so far that the external factor of inflation, right? Some people use the consumer price index, etc., but that is something that is largely out of our control. Now, we do not determine the cost of goods from the international market. The only responsibility we have is when it comes here, how do we apply the various taxes, fees, etc. on it, and then we also reduce the freight and cap the rate of freight to 2019 levels. Now, some people may argue and say that we need to do more, but if these key initiatives, we believe, did not exist, it would have been a total different picture. And so we have intervened. The government is giving up a tremendous amount of revenue in some instances, and I will get to this whole question of revenue in comparison to last year versus now. And just take, for example,
Olio, run have an oil refinery somewhere that gas going to reach down to $15. He's sure about that. Now, Ron Redhead is insinuating that when the gas was capped at $15, oh yes, once it went above 15, the government absorbed it. And he is insinuating that when it went under 15, the customers, as he said, the customers absorbed it, right? So that we paid $15 no matter if it went up or down. This is what this guy is telling the nation. Now, once the oil price went below $15, whatever it is, that's what the consumer pays. So if it's $14.95, if it's $13, as Ron said it could get to, that's what the consumer pays. To stay on national television and speak to the world and announce that that was what was happening, that past deception, that's plain old nasty behavior coming from Ron Redhead. But what do we expect? The guy is slimy. He is. Right? And he's fired. We never was told why, but there are a lot of reasons. But he's still out there representing the government of Grenada. What? They can't do better? No, we know that he didn't have a vehicle and didn't have a driver's license before the elections. But a smart person, any normal thinking person with a little bit of smarts, knows what a cap is. When you cap it to $15, anything above that, the government absorbs, and we know that. But anything below that is as normal, right? You know, he was given his license as a minister, and now he's driving, right? But it is deceitful to insinuate such nonsense. Big talk about the removing of the $15 cap. Folks, now on the weekly petroleum price change, you know that chart that comes out telling you what the price of oil and gas will be that particular for that month from the 18th to the 18th, right? The monthly notice put out by the government of Grenada in the fine print, and the prints were not so fine. They're not so fine. Down below, there are bullets. Now, bullet number 2 reads, effective January 18, 2023, the price cap of $15 on petroleum has expired. Bullet number 3, it reads, the Ministry of Finance continues to monitor petroleum product price and will intervene as necessary if prices exceed $17. In other words, the new cap will be $17. Once it gets to $17, this administration will cap it at $17. When the former administration had capped it at $15. Now, Tom Julie, because he can't look at the camera, he can't look at the host, always bend down like Tom Julie. They're spreading lies about the $15 clip and what it did and what it did. And he ain't telling all you that they plan to cap it at $17. Now, this is included in the petroleum price change notice that comes every month on the 18th of the month. He spoke of the rise in inflation and what the NDC government did to help alleviate the rise in inflation. No. Ron had the nerve to speak of the cap on freight that the administration had put on, where they cap it at the 2019 level freight, the freight at the 2019 level, right? Yes, they did that. Now, that was done for 6 months, not even a year. It was another pilot project. It was another trial and error by the administration, the Deacon Mitchell-led NDC administration. Now, when you listen to Ron Reddit, you'd believe that this cap is still on. That's what he said, really, and that the government is observing all these costs. He said it, right? 6 months. 6 months, right? It was a kindergarten reaction. It had no impact. No impact on the ordinary man's food basket, the basket that you purchase without anything luxurious, the regular milk, sugar, flour, rice, a little piece of meat, you know? It had no impact. And that's what it was supposed to do, right? That's what it was supposed to do. But all along, they knew what it was about. But we figured it out and we spoke out and they just canceled it. It was a break for the big boys as usual. Who called for it in the Senate? Who clamored for it? The representative, the business representative. This is what he asked for. Mr. Rahman or Senator Rahman. They got through. They got through. As the young people would say, they GT. Right. It seems like Ron believes. I don't know if he believes or he just plain came there to deceive the nation because they don't have a leg to stand on. All they tried has failed. They have no new ideas, no new strategies. And the slope has become very slippery. It looks like there's no stopping until we get to the bottom. Right? So the biggest deceiver, the most fraudulent one in the batch, I think Andy a little bit ahead of him. Andy ahead of him. But it's enough. So one of the best in the batch, they throw him out there to come and defend what they can't defend. There's nothing to defend, really. There's nothing to defend. So he's there to tell us, to throw these lies. Who it stick on, it stick on. Right? The cap took effect from October the 1st, 2022 to March of 2023, a 6-month measure, which they opt out of. In a WFM radio news release, caption, government will not extend cap on freight relief. It reads, to reduce the impact of unprecedented freight increases due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the government capped freight at the 2019 level on all goods imported into Grenada with effect from October 1st, 2022, with effect from March 1st, 2022 for a 6-month period. The cap expired on the 31st of October, 2023. So folks, good policies will always outlive rhetoric. NDC is a Kukute administration. Now listen to Ron Redhead on the economy and the drop in revenues.
Just for the passage of Hurricane Beryl, materials, all these other things were given for 1 year free, and some other stuff where people imported stuff. So obviously there would be overall a decrease in revenue. But to compare last year, which is an outlier, and I say outlier to mean that last year had a record number of CBI backlog applicants being processed, and so the revenues shot up. But that was only because of the backlog of processing the CBI applicants, particularly from Russia, and that has since stopped. So now that we are back to normal in this year, the fact remains that based on the estimates for this year, Grenada's revenue is performing well. So it has nothing to do with in comparison to last year. Last year gone already. And the point is the revenue collections. You have to ask the question, based on what we estimated for 2025, is it on par or is it more or is it less? And in this instance, it is more. So we are doing well in terms of collecting revenues, notwithstanding this I would say unfortunate comparison that is always constantly being made to the previous year. But the Ministry of Finance does it.
Is it wrong to make that comparison, sir?
It's not wrong, but it's just that you can't make a final decision on something that represents an outlier. Because if you were to compare in all the previous years, that 1 year might just see a spike in revenue. But to say that if you want to compare this year now with that as the base to say, well, things going downhill and so on, that's not true. So the trend may actually be going up in terms of revenue collections, as opposed to the comparison with the outlier. The outlier would just skew your results partially, just to say that the previous year had a peak or a large spike rather in revenue collections, but it doesn't mean that the country is not collecting revenue. That's not true.
Folks, let's clear the outlier thing. The outlier is the data, okay? Let's just clear that up right now. 2024, the outlier, let's forget the outlier, is the data. No. We are back to normal. This is what Ron Reddit said. We are back to normal. He also said that we are meeting our targets and we are doing better. Now, remember what I told you last week. In order for them to look like they're meeting their targets, they have dropped the targets sometimes 3 times lower than the 2024 data, right? So that they meet their target or surpass it. It looks like they're doing good. So they're trying to fool us by doing so. Low targets, and in most cases, they have not even met these low targets that they set, right? We can't forget 2024. The economy is doing great, he said. Now, first of all, the comparison made in the 2025 January to June overview put out by the Ministry of Finance, not me, not the opposition, put out by the Ministry of Finance of the government of Grenada, the Deacon Mitchell-led NDC administration. That document did the comparison. So to come and tell us, forget the comparison. Is he saying that Minister Cornwall and his PS, Mike Sylvester, and they in the Ministry of Finance don't know what they're about? And we don't need to compare? Forget that. That is in the past. That's why he can't get a good C grade. Now, Ron's dismissal of the 2024 data doesn't dismiss the fact that our total revenue has dropped tremendously by $120.4 million. But let me just read to you the drop in revenues that he don't want us, or they don't want us to talk about. So they send him there to lie to us in our face, to say that they're doing great, that things are marvelous. And in the meantime, revenues are dropping steadily. Now, in non-tax revenues, we have a drop in revenue of $138.9 million. So $139 million, roughly. Of which the IME, which is the CBI revenue, their revenue dropped $144.5 million. And the total current revenue dropped $120.4 million. If that is good by Ron's and the NDC administration's counting, then that's fine. If that's good, right? For interest payments, and that is paying our loans, a drop, $6.1 million drop, right? Other IMA expenses, $37.3 million drop. Total revenue, right? The total revenue under revenue collection by major division year to date, January to June, $120.4 million drop. That's total revenue year to date under revenue collection by major division, right? $120.4 million. Now, on the fiscal summary year to date, we have total revenues and grants. Total revenue and grants, $112.6 million drop in revenue, right? Then there are just revenues, and that's 120.4 million. Repeated here on the fiscal summary, year to date, January to June 2025, right? We're working on 2025. Now, let's move down here to capital expenditure. We have, and that's there, they have 92.3 million, and that's okay. Then we come to primary balance, $230.5 million drop in revenue. Overall balance, $224.6 million drop in revenue. IMA revenues, we did that one before, $144.5 million drop. Contributions to the NTF, $100.3 million drop in revenue. Approved projects, government contributions, $37.8 million drop. Other MIA related fees, that's CBI fees, $6.4 million drop. And the total principal payments, $27.6 million drop. This, my friends, it's a document from the Ministry of Finance of the government of Grenada. So when Ron say forget that, he's saying forget this document. And listen to his lies. Listen to his deceit. Right? This is what he's telling us to do. Right? It's not that easy, Ron. It might have been easy to change a F to a C. But it's not that easy when it comes to the people's business. It's not that easy. You have to keep records. Yes. Right? Folks, besides that, the fact is we are in a deficit, a $30 million deficit. How can we be doing better overall, as Ron said? We are doing better overall. Well, let's look at the call for an overally. We are doing better overally. According to Ron Redhead, doing better means operating in a deficit. We are earning less revenues. And guess what? We are spending more than we are earning. So of course, we end up in a deficit. How are doing Orlando with the maths classes? How are doing? I'm doing good, right? I'm doing real good. So here we are operating in a deficit. And the government representative on a national program speaking to the world, is telling people that we are doing good. We are doing better overall, right? And mind you, this NDC administration collected more revenues under the CBI program, probably 5 times better in these 3 years in comparison to the 13 years that NNP had that CBI program from its inception to when they came out of office in 2022. NDC, well, we all know they boast of billions of dollars they made in 2024. But they were in a deficit in 2024. In June, when their midterm reviews came out, June of 2024, so from January to June, we were in a deficit of $144 million. But what we say, they were saved, or we were saved by the bell. We were saved by Hurricane Beryl. But I'll come to that, right? So we are earning less revenue and we are spending more. So we end up again, because Beryl took us out of the first deficit and they boasted of surplus or surpluses, right? So we're back in a deficit and it's going to only get worse. And as a matter of fact, I do believe it's worse. But what they're doing, they're hiding the CBI fees from us. It's showing up as zero in the budget presentations, in the estimates, and so it's showing up as zero. Now, if we know what those fees are and subtract it, of course, we have a bigger deficit than what they're telling us we have. For some reason, it's been hidden, right? Now, this NDC administration has nothing to show for the billions they collected. The billions they claim to have made from CBI revenues. Not one capital project. Not one. And Ron spoke of the capital projects, eh? In his mind, he also said that recently 8 new businesses opened up in the Northeast, giving jobs to persons both in and out of the Northeast, would help lessen the unemployment rate. 8 new businesses. I'll leave that for you, the people of Northeast, to try and figure out where these 8 businesses are. Not one capital project we can boast of from this new NDC administration for the past 3 years and counting. Not one project to boast of. So it's just all hogwash coming from Ron Redhead. A bunch of lies. And you know what? Some of us here on island know their lies. Those of you who don't pay attention to the news and so, Simon Says is here to take care of that. But for the people in the diaspora who don't know what is going on here on island, I sympathize with you. And so you must tell your friends, tell your colleagues, tell the Grenadian people that you meet to tune in to Simon Says. Have them subscribe. so that they can get the facts as they come. Of course, where facts come first, right? But even though the former administration made way less in CBI revenue, they never fell into a deficit. Folks, it's called proper management, proper governance, something we yet to see from this transformative administration. But you know, we can't blame them. They never told us at which end the transformation will be. They never did. Yes, we are transforming, but we are transforming for the worse. Everything they touch turns to dust. And as I mentioned before, the slope has become very slippery. So with all Ron Redhead's babbling about Beryl and Criff, listen to what the chairman of the Fiscal Resilience Oversight Committee, FROC, Ms. Laurel Bain, had to say in a press conference as she brought the 2024 annual report, what he said we should discard, to us, right? Now, FROC is an independent member committee established by the former administration with a mandate to monitor and report on the government compliance with the relevant fiscal regulations. Now, I do believe that the first chairperson or chairman of FROC was Mr. Duncan, Mr. Richard Duncan, right? During the NNP administration, let that sink in. Here's Ms. Laurel Bain, chairman, or chairperson rather, of FROC.
On the external account, we saw a widening of the merchandise trade deficit by 18%. That is your trade in goods. And this was due primarily to the growth in imports of approximately 10%. However, that widening trade deficit was somewhat partially offset by a growth in services due to developments relating to tourism. As a result, the current account balance, your external account, which includes your trade in goods and your trade in service, is estimated to have widened by 16%. That deficit on the current account was financed by substantial capital and financial inflows in 2024. The capital and financial inflows were related to inflows receipts through the Investment Migration Agency, and the inflow the proceeds from the Risk Insurance Fund. On the financial account also, there was significant capital inflows relating to foreign direct investment, estimated at $748 million. However, in 2024, these inflows were dampened significantly by capital outflows associated with investments by financial institutions. On the fiscal account, the public finances strengthened substantially in 2024. There was a primary balance of 11.3% or $433 million. And there was an overall surplus, which is a primary surplus of 11.3% and an overall surplus of 8%. The overall surplus was estimated at $310.5 million. These surpluses in 2024 was influenced by the significant inflows mentioned that was recorded on the external account, the inflows through the Investment Migration Agency, and the Risk Insurance Fund. The inflows from the Investment Migration Agencies was estimated as approximately $554 million, and the Insurance Fund was $118 million. So there was a surplus in 2024. The fiscal balances are estimated to be in deficit for 2025. There will be a primary deficit projected at 5.1% of GDP, or $208 million. The overall deficit is estimated to be 8% of GDP, or $337 million. The deficit was due primarily to lower estimated proceeds from the Investment Migration Agency and the non-existence of the Insurance Fund in 2025, despite the growth in expenditure in that year.
You see, she did warn us. She did warn us of the deficit to come in 2025. Now, when you hear her saying the Risk Insurance Fund, this Risk Insurance Fund is our CRIF monies. The 118, well, she did say that, the $118 million we got, the payout we got from the CRIF fund. They took it, put it in their revenues, put it in the consolidated fund to get them out, together with the CBI monies, MIA, IMA, whatever they call it now, to take them out of the deficit they were in then. Come to class, Ron Redhead. Come to class. Not you alone, you know. Not you alone. According to the 2024 midterm review put out by the Ministry of Finance of the government of Grenada, we were in a deficit of $144 million. And just then, Beryl came and saved the day using the CRIF payout of $118 million and revenues from the CBI. We went from a deficit to surplus. There's no Beryl in 2025. So there is a deficit. So how are we doing better overall, Ron Redhead? How? A deficit means you cannot pay your bills and that you are not living within your means. Now pay attention to your screen. There's a copy of the monthly stayover arrival reported January to May 2024 in comparison to the same period in 2025, right? From the United States, a $11.1 million drop in revenue. We're talking stayovers here, right? From the United States, from comparing 2024 to 2025, there is a $11.1 million drop in revenues. From Europe, there's a $27.4 million drop in revenue. From the United Kingdom, a $7.7 million drop in revenue. Canada, $18.3 million drop in revenue. The Caribbean, $16.6 million drop in revenue. We managed to hold on to hold our own in cruise passengers. They're not spending money here. They mostly, you hear the complaint all the time. Some of them don't even come off the ship, right? But we are doing better overall, according to Ron Redhead and this NDC administration. But it wasn't only him. They want to make us believe. And I'm telling you this, I spoke to a member of cabinet, a minister of government. When I saw the release that they were going to take the CPL from St. Kitts, who's struggling with their CBI revenues, and the team, the Patriot, the St. Kitts Patriot team, we were going to buy over that. And I said to him, St. Kitts seen trouble because their CBI revenue have dropped tremendously. They're not doing good. So they want to give it up. Actually, they're giving it up. We are taking it. And we are in the same boat. So I said, our revenues are dropping as well. And he said to me, no, they're not. We're meeting our target. And I said to him, look at the revenue, the midterm release that they put out. Look at it. And you would see that the target set is way less. And talking for CBI, 3 times less than what they collected in 2024. And then he said to me, oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's not a make-up story. So they're fooling themselves by messing with the figures. They're not only fooling the ones who are doing it, they're not only fooling us, they're fooling themselves and their colleagues. And they're saying, oh, we're doing good because we met our target, sometimes barely, and other times, as low as they have set their targets, they're falling below their targets. Doing okay, but we're asking the police force to take a cut on their travel allowances. Let me just pull this up here, because you know is where facts come first. Let me get it for you, because, right? Nice. Now, from the Royal Grenada Police Force, it says, in conjunction with the government of Grenada, and the caption read, reduced subsistence allowance. It reads, the Royal Grenada Police Force, in conjunction with the government of Grenada, is requesting from members of the Royal Grenada Police Force who are selected or nominated to attend courses overseas to accept a reduced subsistence to attend the course. This has become unavoidably necessary. Listen, people. This has become unavoidably necessary due to financial constraints and budgetary limitations currently faced by the government, unquote. I'll read it again, according to the Prime Minister. Let me read that again. This has become unavoidably necessary due to financial constraints and budgetary limitations currently faced by the government, end of court, right? I'll put up the memo there so you can see for yourself. I didn't make it up. I didn't make it up. Meanwhile, on the outside, because that's inside, we hiding and we saying everything's going good and we making believe and we spending money there's no need to spend. Because we take the character games that we had in 2020, right? And we're taking it again in 2026 because we're rich and we have to pretend we're doing well. And we're about to purchase the CPL and the St. Kitts Patriot from St. Kitts. You're not doing so well, but we're doing good. So we take that. But we writing letters to our police officers, asking them to take cuts, right? And we know that all of our bills are not being paid. And we know that there are workers who have not been getting their salaries on time and who have not been getting their salaries, in some cases 2-3 months past, and they're not getting their salaries, right? So while that is going on the inside, on the outside, right? The COP, the chief of police or commissioner of police, whichever one they're carrying, he's openly celebrating, right, his NDC government campaign achievements.
It is an absolute pleasure to be standing here today to speak of some of the accomplishments of the Royal Grenada Police Force, especially having assumed the office of Commissioner of Police. The much anticipated pay and grade adjustments for police officers has been an ongoing battle over the years, dating back as far as 1995. We have had senior officers, much of whom are now in retirement, fighting and charting the way forward for this increase. Today, we have accomplished this necessary adjustment in our salaries. We are proud as an organization moving forward, incrementally achieving those many setbacks which we have experienced in the past. We are moving forward in not just making the necessary pay and grade adjustments, but in infrastructure, in technology, and all other aspects, including the capacity building of each and every police officer going forward. So it's a very good day for police officers in Grenada. The pay and grade adjustments have been finally realized, and the necessary retroactive payments have already started. So we thank the government of Grenada and look forward to many more accomplishments on behalf of the RGPF and Grenada as a whole.
The most senior police officer employed by the Public Service Commission of Grenada, given with one hand and taken back with the other, given on the outside and sneaking in the inside with memos and taking back with the other. It's called bamboozling. The RGPF, they're bamboozling the teachers as well. Regularization is taking place now in full force for the teachers. Election is not far away. Can you tell? Can you tell? So I am very happy for the teachers and the police officers. Really, I am very happy for them, right? Because with this non-stop rising inflation, some of them have their families, I'm sure most of them, if not all of them, their families to take care of. And so I am happy for them. But after 3 years and counting, the regularization of teachers and the pay and grade of the police officers are nothing but political bribery. And I hope you guys can see it for what it is. I hope you can see it for what it is. And when you go to that small booth behind that black curtain, you know what to do. You already have it. You already get the pay and grade. You already get the regularization, right? As I said, if it's working out smoothly I am really happy for you guys. If, because I know that the pay and grade have a lot of issues as it is already, and not everybody's collecting it as they're boasting. But as I said, they're giving in one hand and they're taking back with the other, right? So lest we forget that the cabinet of Grenada took 2 pay raise in the first 6 months in office, right? In the first 6 months, even before they knew or we knew that they can do what they were hired to do. And in the end, we found out that we're not competent, right? The prime minister's reason for the raise was to lessen corruption, right? Let's hear him before we continue.
Salaries, in my view, are woefully inadequate. And what that means is that you almost create a situation where people are vulnerable. And therefore, you find a situation where the corruption and so on could happen easily. Because if you're going to give persons a very demanding job to do, and there's no doubt that being a government minister or an MP is a demanding job, and then the state provides little or no or very inadequate resources to allow them to do that job, then you're almost facilitating the process where people are going to be weak, be vulnerable, and they find themselves making decisions that they should not do. However, if you create an environment where persons are paid well, they're given the resources, then you certainly would be minimizing the risk of corruption. And if it does happen, then there certainly should be dire consequences for them because they would have no excuses.
Can you imagine what we just heard there, right? First of all, he picked them. What do you call them in the parliament? Hungry mouth and beggy, right? He picked them. He give them endless money so that they don't touch, they don't push their hand in the cookie jar, right? He said that they shouldn't, but if they did, there should be dire consequences. Prime Minister, what Andy Williams doing there still? And Ron Redhead? What they're doing there still? And there are others. There are others. Yet for all, with the big salary, with the 2 increases, I think they're probably going home some between $15,000 and $20,000, if not 25 a month for some, depending on all the other little fees they incur. And some of them have businesses behind the scenes. So, who knows, a cool $30,000 maybe or more, right? Yet for all, we have widespread corruption amongst cabinet members in almost every ministry, department, statutory bodies, institution and entities, all that's related to this Deacon Mitchell-led administration, the subsidiaries, in almost every corner, there's widespread corruption. The supporters, the friends that are put in high places, advisors and chairman of boards and so. Friends of nation builders. Corruption, corruption, corruption. Ministers of government going home with big salaries. So that didn't work. So it's either you give them, add to their salary, or you do what you said, right? But if you're asking the police officers to cut on their subsistence, then I suggest you ask your cabinet ministers, you, to take pay cuts as well. The last administration did it. Granted, there were a couple, I think they said, that refused to do it, but most of them did it. We yet to know, and I think it's two are the ones who bung away. The two that didn't take it, I think, oh God, Lord, only real good in this country. Only real good in this country. The question is, what are we getting for our money spent? For the worth, the monies we paying these cabinet members, what are we getting for that? In the meantime, the Prime Minister, we asking the police to take a little cut. They're traveling, they're going to need a little monies. We asking them to take cut there. The Prime Minister still lives in a mansion in the south of the island, on the hill, with a panoramic view, costing the people and the government of Grenada $20,500 a month. He's not married. He doesn't have a family living in with him. He has his kids who probably visit him maybe on weekends or sometimes might stay over. Maybe the son, he's a big boy now. A mansion costing us $20,500, and we're asking the police officers to take a cut in their subsistence fee. And we're asking the parents to pay to help share the cost of the computers. All you giving the Form 1s and 2s. Announce it proud. We ain't hearing nothing, we ain't seeing nothing about computers. But we'll come to that a little later, But you're asking them. And folks, that's why I didn't have program yesterday. I stayed back to hear that press conference because I got wind of it and I needed to hear it for myself. They're asking the parents to pay 40% of the cost of the computers. But the Prime Minister is renting a property when there is a Prime Minister's residence empty, taking bush, that could have been renovated. The same 7 months he waited for the mansion to be retrofitted or renovated to suit him, the same 6 months or 7 months, even if it was a year, for the Prime Minister's residence to be renovated, so that $20,500 every month. Do you know how much salaries that could pay? But nobody ain't seen that. Y'all ain't seen that. Y'all them rowdy NDC people that making noise for him and protecting him from a gentleman who showed up to a meeting well-dressed, a Grenadian meeting. You should have put by the door, this is NDC people alone allowed. And besides, who knows what party the gentleman supports? But we'll come to that too. I jump in the gun because I cannot believe we cut in. We're asking the RGPF officers to cut. And we have this kind of wastage of monies from the Prime Minister. And the reason given for him why he can't live in Mount Royal, that's he'll be looking down on Dabo and River Road. That can't happen. The man is a man of clubs. Not me that say. Let's say.
Folks, we bring to any situation in life that we ourselves are in, who we are, our standard and quality. And if we have none, we will bring that too. We have had lots of low-class people with access to social media who feel Mount Royal is fit for a Prime Minister to reside in as it is. You should ask the government to let you stay there because it is vacant now. That place has for years outlived its usefulness. Has any of you who are today talking about the current Prime Minister's decision to not relocate to that Labast, overlooking Darbo, Mount Rush, River Road, Queen's Park, taken an objective look at it to see if you have a dog, if you will, that you really love, that you will allow to live there right now as it is? What obtained prior to June 23rd, 2022 may have been suited for that place. But since the commencement of transformation, it is obsolete. The entire grounds are always overgrown, as if to indicate that beasts live there. So you have to hunt for them. Ha ha ha. As we say, joke day. Anyone who knows the humble man that our current Prime Minister is, you would know that he's also classy. And his successes as a lawyer support his high standard of living and quality of life. Even though he lived on St. John's Street, a building he owns, necessity and practicality contributed to him electing to live there as a private citizen. Of course, the high quality of the internal environment made it pleasing to him and his children. He's now the Prime Minister, and for security reasons, it is not practical for him to continue to live there. That is an undisputed fact. If you have your nice environment living in all the time, for reasons that are convenient to you, but you were in a similar position to the current Prime Minister, elected to office, would you mindlessly relocate to a broth house? A house where intelligence tells you all sorts of unsavory things used to go on, and for many years? You gotta be out of your cotton-picking mind. Apart from that, when you see where this place is and what it has come to since after Sir Eric's years of living there, government should have parted ways with that location a long time now. I recall saying years ago, and only recently repeated, that no individual citizen should outclass the residences of our Governor General and our Prime Minister.
The joke is on you, my friend. The joke is on you. That's all right. That's all right. Now, added to that, we have a consul general in Dubai, Zia Rahman. The people are paying him $45,110.26 monthly. You heard me? $45,110.26 monthly. $541,323.12 annually. A salary of $17,390.88 monthly. Children allowances, yes, children allowances, $9,531.38 monthly. So his children allowances could not have come from his expensive salary, which is $17,000, right? They had to get that separate. I'll read the letter for you in a minute. Rent, penthouse rental, may I say. May I make it clear? He wanted penthouse rental. $18,188, my friends. A monthly total of, and I'll say it again, let me repeat, $45,110.26. Friends of the Prime Minister who supported the NDC in the South and the NDC in general, bigly, financially. Right? monthly. For what? What have we gotten for our money's worth? What have we gotten from Dubai? Yeah? Let me read that letter for you quickly. On the 5th of December 2023, and the letter is written to Mrs. Zia Rahman, Consul General, General Consulate, Dubai, United Arab Emirates. Dear Mr. Rahman, this letter is to inform you that Cabinet at its meeting on October the 2nd, 2023, approved as a special case the payment of $114,376.62 per annum to you as financial assistance to cover the cost of annual school fees for your children. Please note that the payment will commence on 1st of September retroactively. Be guided accordingly. You think that is fair to us? To the school children out there who can't be fed on a day, who can't buy the parents who can't buy uniforms. We are paying for the Consul General's children to go to private school in Dubai and is receiving extra monies for that purpose. 9,000 plus $9,531.38 monthly. Folks, the former Consul General got a total of 3,000 USD, equivalent $8,010 EC dollars. 8,010 EC dollars compared to $45,110. Something missing here, folks. Something missing here. This Deacon Mitchell and administration is about him, his friends, the few of them up there, and not all of them, you know. His friends, his nation builders, colleagues, their families and friends. And they are, and so they're doing good. And the few cabinet members who learn how to embezzle, who learn how to do fraudulent acts, who learn how to take bribes, who are pushing their hands in the cookie jar. Andy Williams spending hundreds of millions of dollars, and he's just being given more and more. The corruption that's taking place inside that MIT office, the movements of money, the washing of money. Folks, it's back to school time. And so it will be remiss of me not to speak to you on our failed education system, what our parents and guardians are going through. The ordinary man, yes, that the ones that are feeling it in their gut. I'm speaking to those and of those. The ordinary man as they seek to educate their children and can't afford the 9,000 plus per month just for their kids. Those we're talking about. We hear it all the time. The only way out of poverty is through education. Just words, right? I want to quickly touch on Cloget and the travesty. It's back to school time. The children of Cloget, like all other children of the island, the state of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique are getting prepared for the return of school. Some of them anxious as ever because they just passed their common entrance and they're going into their secondary school, their first year in secondary school. Right? And they have to wonder how, and it's raining now. Look, it's raining as I speak. How are they going to get through the land slippage to get to the other side so they can get to school? And when they finish school, they have to get back through the land slippage to get home. For the children of Cloget, it's a challenge. And what is worse is the deafening silence of the member of parliament and by extension, the government of Grenada. MP Karine James, the last time she been to Cloget is when the Prime Minister visited there. I think it's already almost 2 months ago. Now, if you look on the screen, you'll see the latest photos of what's going on in Cloget. Now, I was told by one of the residents, you see that board that they walk on, that piece of it was removed. The workers said they needed it to do board up, something. They needed it anyway. They had to use it, so they took it. And they were waiting on the government of Grenada to send them material to create a proper path for the residents of Cloget. This is what, if you're looking on the screen, that is what the children and the residents of Cloget have to deal with. This is what they have to deal with. The same route that months ago, weeks ago, I'm sure it's a couple months now, the authority put up posters saying that it's dangerous for them to traverse and that they're traveling there at their own risk. The signage is still there, but that's the same route. They don't have an alternative. They were not given an alternative route. So they have to use the same dangerous route. Just to say, Cloget, you remain in our hearts and in our minds. God's grace upon you all. On the Ride Along program, Kemp Jones boasting of his party's achievements in office. And I quote, the free hot meal program that again will recommence come September, end of quote. Now we all know that that's a failed program. The Ministry of Education and by the extension, the government of Grenada cannot afford to upkeep that free school feeding program and that they should have left it as they met it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't try to fix what's not broken. And therefore, parents are asked, send notes to send their children to school with lunches. All they had to do was to leave it as it was, $1 a day for sometimes 2 meals, because some kids got breakfast and lunch. $1 a day. It's called proper management, right? Kemp Jones continued, the free textbook program that will recommence will in fact, well, he said, in fact, it started already, where parents are getting that, where parents are getting that. Parents are getting what? Parents are complaining that there are no free school books, that they have to go to the store and purchase books, $100 and up when it comes to secondary school books, because books were not replenished. If any one child is lucky, they might get a few, depending on the school or the form and how well the kids before took care of the books. But if years are passing and no new books are coming into the system, eventually there'll be no books, right? And as a matter of fact, what parents are told is not to purchase books for the Form 1s and 2s. They said they are bringing e-books, right? They're saying, go kiddie e-books. We're coming down to that. He continued, the free school bus program. That's a good thing, he says. What free school bus program? In February of 2025, the school bus pilot program called Spice Bus was launched to last a duration of 6 months, which took us to August 2025, right? Since then to date, we have heard nothing from the official on this Spice Bus pilot program. But we've been hearing. At the beginning, the schools had to send the names of the children needing bus, like to and from school, the most needy ones, I presume. They had to send the names to the ministry. The ministry handpicked the names and sent back the list to the schools. In some cases, they picked Big Sister. So Big Sister on the free bus, Little Sister by the road waiting for a ride or a bus to go home. Always, nothing could be done properly, right? So the little sister had to take the public transport. It did not work. In essence, it's a failed program, another trial and error. However, whatever it is, they said it's a pilot program. And so, pilot programs, you do a pilot so you can see the hiccups, you can see where you went wrong and fix it. And according to the Prime Minister, the full rollout should be in September of 2025. That is a couple days away from now. Now, a pilot program is a small-scale, temporary trial or a new concept product, service or process to evaluate its feasibility, effectiveness, and potential challenges before a full-scale launch. So we're waiting on the full-scale launch because all that project had was issues. Let's say this clip of what this whole project was complements the GIS.
Grenada will soon introduce a school bus program addressing the challenges of student transportation. The school bus pilot program, targeting the parishes of St. David and St. George, aims to provide a safer and more efficient system for students. On Monday, a key stakeholder meeting was held at the Grenada Boys Secondary School with select school principals, PTA representatives from the parishes of St. David and St. George. Hosted by the Grenada Transport Commission, it focused on raising awareness on the upcoming school bus pilot program, gathering feedback, and evaluating its potential for success. CEO of the Grenada Transport Commission, David Bartholomew, explained that 10 schools will participate in the pilot program, which will commence at the end of January.
The major stakeholders is the Ministry of Education, and by extension, the principals of the different schools. You have 10 schools, 5 in St. George's and 5 in St. David's, that are part of the program. We also had a representative of the Parent Teachers Association, which is absolutely critical, because we want to ensure that the parents play a critical role in this whole pilot project. For it to succeed, the parents must play a critical role in the project. And the goal is to ensure, and what we're looking at is the mechanism that we'll look at over the next few months that will ensure that every single child on the program, on that pilot program, could get to school on time and with the least hassle.
During the pilot phase, data will be collected to assess the program's effectiveness and guide future improvements. Bartholomew also elaborated on how the program will operate, adding that the selected buses will carry a special sticker for easy identification and an app will be created to allow geo-mapping and easy tracking.
The system geomaps every single student who on that pilot program. The system geomaps the drivers who on that program, and we have what we call an app that will look at the zones, and it's a zone optimization app. What it will do, it will ensure that the route optimization app that will ensure there's a route created that will allow all children to be picked up. No child will be left behind. When we feed all that data, the geomapping into the thing. So the school will be geomapped, the student will be geomapped, and the drivers will be geomapped. And the optimization app will ensure that there's a connectivity and all the children will be taken care of. What it also does, so there'll be camera on the buses, and for safety and other purposes, there'll be camera on the buses. There'll be a validator on the buses, and the children will have a card, each student will have a card, and they'll have to tap the card to ensure that it is they who are traveling to validate to get onto the bus. You have to tap the card to get onto the bus.
This initiative, the Commission said, is a vital step towards modernizing school transportation in Grenada, ensuring a better experience for students and their families. Educational institutions and parents can monitor the buses and keep track of their children's safety and security.
Parents will also have an app, and the parents could know when that child board the bus, when that child leave the bus, when that child arrive at home, when that child leave home. The parents will be able to monitor exactly what that child doing as long as the child have that card. The school also has a display system, a real-time display system in each one of the schools, that the principal or whoever appointed could look at it and know when the buses are coming, so they could release the train and appropriate timing to get the buses when they come to the school. The idea is to ensure that we get all children on the program home by 5:30.
So it's apps and geomaps and I mean, why? What's all of that for? Just to say, what is that? The only place in the world with a program like that, and it failed. It failed, right? Who parents have the time on a day? If that's so, then you need to get them working. So that's part of the unemployed, to sit down and wait and watch for the children while they're on the bus and the principals. And I don't know why I think we could do better right here in Grenada for a chairman of the Transport Commission. I'm sorry. I just think we can. Now, let me take you to the official launch of the Spice Bus pilot program. Here is the press secretary.
Today, I am truly honored to host this morning's long-awaited Spice Bus program launch. Under the newly established Grenada Transport Commission, which falls directly under the Ministry of Transportation, headed by our Prime Minister, the Honorable Deacon Mitchell. Today marks a significant step in the transformation of transportation and reinforces our government's commitment to education and, of course, national development. The National Spice Bus program will ensure that every child in Grenada has a safe, reliable, and affordable transportation to and from school.
Then there was remarks from the CEO of the Transportation Commission. I maintain we can do better than that.
Thank you, Madam Press Secretary. Prime Minister of Grenada, Carriacou and Petite Martinique, the Honorable Deacon Mitchell, Mr. the Honorable David Andrew, the Minister of Education, Mr. Francis Paul, our esteemed chairman, Ms. the PS, our PS, Mr. Alva Brown, Ms. Perron, that is PS of the Ministry of Resilience. I may get it wrong. Ministry of Resilience. Welcome. All board members. Some of the board members are probably looking at it live. Welcome all of you all. You know, sometime at this point in time, we normally say all protocol observed, you know, but I don't want to say that because this particular luncheon is such a strategic, critical launch that I want to welcome personally some of the strategic partners that we have forged in making this a reality. People like Sarami, who are putting in all the infrastructure, the IoT people, Internet of Things people. We also want to welcome the CDB. They may also be looking at us, the CDB, who created the framework that allowed us to move forward, that allowed Sarami to come in and do their bit. We also want to acknowledge the MBA. And the MBA has been working with us assiduously throughout this whole exercise, you know. And I must say that one of the things that we were told initially, from the very beginning, that the MBA have a critical, but they have been playing a critical part in transportation in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. And that whatever we at the Transport Commission is doing, good, we must ensure that they are involved in everything that we are doing. So I want to say thanks to Mr. Mackenzie, not thanks, but we want to welcome you and his team to this, this critical opening. It's important to note that we started this thing with a mandate by the Honorable Prime Minister, and as the Press Secretary said, the mandate is to ensure that all schools, irrespective of who you are, where you are, what standard in society you are, all school children have safe, reliable, and affordable transportation. That was the mandate we got from the Prime Minister. Right? And our board took up that mandate, and every single person worked in order to achieve that mandate. And it was a shared vision coming from the Prime Minister. And one of the things that I liked about it is that the Prime Minister didn't just say, do that. Right? He was always checking through the PS on what was happening, because the PS will always come asking, you know, we got to get the Prime Minister an update. We have to give your Prime Minister an update. So we know that the Prime Minister was always involved in this thing all along. Right? And it kept us all motivated, right? Us at the management level and at the board level. Every single individual, the board members who were abroad, the board members who were in the island, every single person took part in what was happening. One of the things that we gathered when we started doing the registration, and a little later on, you have Sarami, they will go into the whole process, the technical part of it. But one of the things we began realizing is that we have quite a few parents who don't have phones. So what we like to do at GTT is to put out an appeal to corporate Grenada and the diaspora to work with us to ensure that we get phones to all people who don't have, all parents who don't have phones. So that's a call I'm putting out there to the diaspora and to all corporate Grenada to work with us to ensure that people who don't have phones, and we have quite a lot of people who don't have phones, and we want every single person to be part of this program. There shouldn't be anything that will disallow anyone from being part of this critical program. This is a critical movement. This is a critical program. This is literally history making, because we have school bus programs all over the world. Different form, different format. But this program that we are doing here, God, I think it's breaking all boundaries. It's totally, fully IT-driven, AI-driven. Everything. There isn't a program based on information and research that information that came back to me. There isn't a program right now in any part of the world, based on my understanding, there isn't a program that will be like what we are about to launch. So, I know something decided to talk, right? So let me say welcome to everybody. I see Mr. Smith just came in. Welcome to everyone, the parents, the students, the people at the people at TAMCC, the experts from Trinidad who have been working very closely with the people at TAMCC, and everybody else. Welcome to History in the Making. Thank you.
The problem is, it's not all the time you need to reinvent the wheel, right? Throughout the world, there are several school bus programs that are functioning efficiently. So we didn't need to have the only one like that in the world. No, we didn't. But that's the brainchild of the Prime Minister. The bourgeoisie thinking, you know, can do this, big shot, right? Everything is supposed to be grand. So they can say, Deacon Mitchell is the brainchild behind that, right? Mr. Bartholomew, question. When you raise funds for all the parents, and I doubt you can do that, but if you do that, or the ones you've done it, who's paying the bill? Who's paying the credit? If they do a pay as you go, who's putting credit on these? And when you put a credit on the phone, even you put a credit on the phone for them, who's to say they're going to use the credit to sit down and watch their children and do app and app and app and app for their children, to see their children on bus? Who's to say that? And who said that they're technologically educated enough for AI and IT and all the I's? And that's why it failed. And that's why it failed. Do you know, sir, that the parents attached to the Croshu school has given back their cards, all 21 of them? They can't understand the technical part of it. They do not comprehend, and they just can't do it. Putting things on their phone and all the apps and the apps and the apps and the geomaps. They can't do it. The ones who have phones, some of them not working properly. For the most part, you know, when you have phone giving trouble and things, etc. So the pilot out. That pilot in Croshu outed a long time, from the very beginning. Information coming from another school. The management of the school is saying they didn't think it necessary for their school to be a part. The parents cannot cope, and the pilot outed there as well. They advised that the commission and the great Prime Minister and the commission and the Prime Minister and the ministry and whoever is involved go back to the drawing board. Now, according to the Prime Minister and the Minister of Transportation, the pilot was supposed to last for 6 months, and therefore the national program should be starting in September of 2025. That's this coming school year. A couple of days away from there, but we've heard nothing. No one to update us on the pilot program since and how it went. The chairman spoke in the same lunch. The truth is, we already running out of time. His thing was just as the CEO, it was just more about apps and apps and apps and apps and apps. I mean, I was like amazed. The trouble with this is, I believe the Prime Minister and his commission should have held training courses with the parents before they launch, because these people need to be trained. Some of them, it probably way above their pay grade. The best in the world, they say. And who are these parents that would sit and monitor their children on the school bus for security reasons? I mean, children has been going to school from time. We use Sweet Roses, we use the boat buses, we had nylon and them, and Bono, well, I'm talking about in my area, old bus where you could see the road. When it's smoking, it's like the mosquito thing. Sometimes you're in it, you're getting home, you're getting to and from school. A lot of the times we walked back and forth. I'm not saying that time has not evolved. I don't know if you could do it, but what's the point though? What's the point of all this? And it cannot work. It cannot work. Then came the champion of the course, the man with the vision, the man with the bourgeoisie thinking. Why make what should be a simple school bus program so complicated? What all that tapping and apping about? The only one in the world like it. And he said, the only one in the world. Who cares? All we need is the children to get to and from school and to ease up the burden of the public transport, that after a certain hour, hundreds of people are standing on the bus terminal waiting for bus and can't get home, and that is still happening. The truth of the matter is that is what really need fixing. From 5 o'clock in the afternoon throughout the evening, 6, 7, 8. That's what needs fixing. A proper schedule, not of one bus leaving at 6, one leaving at 7, and one at 8. That's 45 people if they're in overload. We're talking about hundreds of persons that are waiting for the bus. But let's hear the Prime Minister.
And as the CEO indicated, it's a pivotal moment in the transportation sector in Grenada. As recently as the sitting of Parliament on Wednesday, I believe, or Tuesday, no independent member of Parliament highlighted the need for national collaboration on the issue of the transportation system in Grenada. And it's a national issue, and so we need all of our stakeholders to be able to take part in ensuring that we can significantly improve transportation, which is a fundamental infrastructure issue for any country that wants to be able to move both its economy and social development forward. So we are excited that we were able to do this launch this morning, and this pilot launch today. It's been a little long in the making by my standards, but probably not by any stretch of the imagination by the public service standards. So I should say I want to congratulate the team, because in a sense this has been done at record pace for the kind of initiatives that we normally struggle with in the public sector. And it is transformative because, first, let's talk about our school children. I've been on record for saying school children should not be on the same public transportation with adults. And I think the reasons are obvious, and I don't need to get into them. That's one. Two, the early adult childhood educator pointed out the importance of punctuality and regularity to ensure that access to education actually means access to punctual and regular education. And when our kids get left on the wayside, they're also at greater danger and at greater risk from a safety perspective. But I will also say this, because I think it's important. The busmen have subsidized the cost of taking our school children to school for the last several decades, and I think they deserve a round of applause for doing so. because we asked them to carry a child. It's the same cost of carrying a child as an adult. And we've asked them to subsidize that cost, and they've done so. And I've said to them, and they have made requests as part of the challenges they face to say it should be one price. And I've said to them, politically, it's not something we can swallow, but we have to find ways to work with the bus association to make sure that our children can still get to school, and they can also be able to cover the expenses and be in a position to pay their bills when the week or the month comes. And that's why it was important for us to have this pilot with the bus men and not seek to compete with them. We are not seeking to compete with them. We are seeking to work with them to ensure that we can address the challenges that they themselves recognize exist in the transport sector. So they have been fundamental to this process, and it has been collaborative. We may not have always agreed, but the discussions have always taken place in a respectful, cordial, and I would say importantly, in a much more trusting manner. And I look forward to that engagement deepening and continuing as we begin to address the other wider concerns that we have. So the project will last for 6 months as a pilot. It covers 10 schools in St. David and St. George. The schools were selected by the Ministry of Education. The participating schools are the St. David Catholic Secondary School, the Westall Secondary School, the St. Dominic's RC School, the Crowshoe RC School, and the current government school in St. David. In St. George, it's the St. George's Anglican Junior and Senior, Anglican High School, Presentation Brothers College, St. Louis Girls RC, and the Boca Secondary School. This is the formal launch today. The program itself will commence 2 weeks after today's date. Cost and accessibility. For now, the entire cost of this pilot is being borne by the government of Grenada through the Grenada Transport Commission. So for the students who will get the opportunity to be part of this pilot, they will not be paying anything. However, when the pilot is finished and a national schools Spice Bus program is run out, we will have to pay. Because transportation, as you appreciate, simply is not free, and it's actually quite expensive. But because this is a pilot, and because we want to learn the lessons and iron out the kinks, the government is funding the initial pilot. So we will obviously engage in a cost-sharing mechanism after we've completed the pilot, and we are quite certain as to the cost implications of a national rollout.
Note that if and when this Spice Bus project have a national rollout, your children will have to pay. Okay? This is not free. Can't afford to give your children, the poor people children, anything free, because we have to pay $9,000 a month for the Consul General's children in Dubai. And we just can't afford to give you all nothing free, okay? All you're good. All you're going to learn. All you're going to learn. And Kem Jones continues. The Uniform and School Supply Program. This is up and running, 450, and I'm quoting here, the Uniform and School Supplies Program. This is up and running, $450 voucher. Now let's speak about this whole voucher thing for a minute. First of all, not all families, if at all, receive $450 voucher. There are the ones, for instance, this one, if you look on your screen, you'd see the voucher is $150. Now let's break this down. If you want a longer lasting pair of shoes, look on your screen. That pair of shoes is in excess of $300. You can get one for less. That after your child kicked the first stone, as I said, the shoe's starting to smile for you. Remember? So you'd have to get a new one every month. And even this $300 one, if you notice, it's not like a brand name, right? But it's probably one of the most studied ones. Regular school skirts, or shirts rather, for primary school, $35, 35 plus for the regular shirts. The ones with the crest, $55. Fabric for skirt and pants, $30 to $40 a yard. A Form 1 child's book, $100 plus. Cost of living continues to climb. Parents now have to feed their children, right? Breakfast and lunch. School accessories, notepads, pencils, pens, sharpeners, erasers, all of those things. How can $150, a brochure, a voucher? And of course, you notice, what can $150 voucher, what can they do for a family? And then you notice it's again technical, right? It's a QR code. And you have to have a phone to receive it. If you don't have a phone and you're a poor family with 5, 6 children, how do you manage if you don't have a phone to get the code, the barcode, right? I mean, why it has to be so hard for a vulnerable person? Yes, there are vulnerable ones among us, to get through under this NDC administration. They removed the voucher program from the schools, where it was more or less on a level playing field, and the children who really need would their names, their families would be sent, the names would be sent down to the ministry. Now the ministry is doing it on its own, basically. Parents had told me a geometry set, $40. He continued, free tuition for Tamsisi and Nulo. That progress is in full swing, $811. Now, Cam Jones was supported with his deception by the Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell, who recently was at a town hall meeting in Toronto, Canada. The Prime Minister, while addressing the audience at the town hall meeting, spoke of his achievements of the government and its administration.
But medium to long education and the need for significant reforms in education, healthcare, and the need for significant and sustained long-term improvement in healthcare. Those things are not quick fix, and they're not easy wins. And I'm not doing it for myself, particularly when it comes to education. If we do not invest in our education system, if we do not reform it, and in some instances we do not revolutionize it, we are going to face significant challenges, and the next generation of the leaders are going to face significant challenges in the world, not just in Britain. So there are a couple of things that we fix. We've already done a number of things. Over the last 2 years, we tried to eliminate any access to education, as there are no registration fees that are payable to the government. In some schools, as you know, our churches play a significant role, so there are fees such as associated with a tie or crest or so on, but there are no fees payable to the government, right up to TMR, Comic Forage, and Europe. All the tuition and registration fees have been eliminated. We continue to provide uniform assistance in the students who come from less fortunate or disadvantaged groups, so that their parents aren't to go to uniforms, vouchers are provided and paid by the government so that they can have assistance. But we have even the Walmart are being charged for schooling in our primary schools. We have eliminated it so that children get the free meal while they're school for free. So like easy to parents said, we kind of own the effort to not send the children to school because we in fact provide update. There are still large families who are disadvantaged. There's a C program that still provides assistance to mothers in particular who have children who are going to school, in addition to all those things that are talked about. And in some instances, there are transportation allowances that are made to the children. Again, the intensity, so it's genuinely not able to afford the cost of transportation to come to schools. We have piloted a free school bus program. As a pilot, we are hoping to get the lesson out of the pilots. We are working to get electronic buses onto the island, as well as to begin to address the issue of ensuring that our school children can get to school in a safe, child-friendly manner. The current public transportation system makes school children, adults, and they say no protection whatsoever. towards school children. I only talk about some of the challenges that our school children go through as a result of this. So we are keen to make sure that we can get to the point where Grenada is forming one of the super kids that total on this school bus program that allows all kids to go to school safely and to ensure that they are protected from adults who otherwise they don't have been interacting with. So this is something that we are keen to roll out. And once we completed the pilot, we did so in conjunction with the current bus operators, who are all private bus operators. They were vetted and screened, and we wanted to make sure that they were the right type of persons who will carry our children to and from school on the spiral. And so we are hoping that as we go into 2025, we can get to a point where we can roll out broader scale these school bus system to ensure that our children can get to and come to school as well. Our goal is to make sure that each Grenadian household can graduate a university student as a starting place.
Much more of the same achievements, the failed projects that they've been speaking about, that he went to Toronto and tell the audience about. But the whole tuition thing, because I dealt with most of them already, the whole tuition thing, I'll let the leader of the opposition, Honorable Emmeline Pierre, take care of that.
But as a member on the other side, who I believe now, I have reason to believe, is deliberately referring to this program as the free education program. Mr. Speaker, it says free tuition program. That's what it is. I heard the member for St. Patrick East said that we criticized this program. Mr. Speaker, if you go back, and I make no joke with these things, if you go back, you would find that I said I supported this. And if I support and I follow with some constructive criticism, nothing wrong with that. Nothing is wrong with that. It is intended to help to make the thing better and to improve for other people, right? Nothing is wrong with that. That nothing. Mr. Speaker, under the free tuition program, I want to just share a few observations, and I'll stick to my own constituency in case you don't want me to go there. So, Mr. Speaker, there's no objection to this program. Absolutely none. You have the money, you could give everybody. We've always said that. We didn't have it to give everybody. You have it to give everybody, no problem. We will talk about that. Mr. Speaker, so if you have enough money now to give everybody free tuition, no problem. Right, nothing. Mr. Speaker, what I would say is let us be a little more considerate now to the many students who have received free tuition but are still having trouble going to school. Because, Mr. Speaker, having free tuition and no transportation don't make a lot of sense. Mr. Speaker, well, you know, I try to avoid responding, and please don't tempt me too much, because when you say that, and you talking about 2024, I am not talking about 2024. I'm talking about children who dropped out in 2023 because of this problem, Mr. Speaker. So don't tell me what's going to happen in 2024. Try not to disturb me, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, under our administration, we gave free tuition to students, but we did not just stop it at free tuition. Let me just make sure and make it clear, because I don't want anybody to say that I said what did not exist. We did not give to everybody. We could not afford to give to everybody. But we gave to those persons throughout the length and breadth of Grenada who applied and expressed an interest and were in need. But, Mr. Speaker, on top of that, we didn't say here is free tuition, that's it. Transportation support was provided, Mr. Speaker. Uniform support was provided, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, supported with exam fees. So you give the free tuition, and now after I would have benefited from the free tuition, situation, I cannot now do the exam because I cannot pay for the exam. So all I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, is this. This is great, free tuition. But it does not benefit many people that I represent because even when they receive it, they are still unable to assist their children to go to school. So I am not going to say cut it, you know. I'm not going to say cut it and take from the people who could afford. I'm going to say based on your reports, you can now add on transportation, you can now add on meals allowance, you can now add on assistance to pay for examinations based on your glowing reports. Mr. Speaker, all I would add to that, even if it means taking 2 million from the 14 million for independence, even if it means taking something from the 213% increase in CBI revenue, Mr. Speaker, whatever it takes, Mr. Speaker, let us do something for these children more. But you know, that's not the only point that's significant. Because a student who is going to NULO at TAMCC, who has transportation, let us imagine, they have tuition, they have transportation, they have meal. Mr. Speaker, do you know that in addition to the tuition at TAMCC and NULO, there are other fees, Mr. Speaker? And Mr. Speaker, some of those can go as high as 1,000 plus. And Mr. Speaker, because of that, there are some students who right now are unable to attend to those institutions because they can only access tuition. Mr. Speaker, I know of a time when tuition was provided, but we also paid for the toolkit. We also paid for the other things where people were not able to access it, but it was necessary to attend school.
But of course, in Parliament, they jet, they make noise, they stoops, they, sit down, they make, all the things they do. And so she was ignored. But it came to pass. So the Prime Minister visited Boss FM. And this is what he had to say.
When we do our budget, we don't do a budget just from the perspective of 12 months. We do the budget from the 12-month perspective, yes, because the law requires it, but we also do it from a medium to long-term perspective. So you would see that every year we are going to build on things. So if we take education, for example, we could take TAMCC and, we said we'll do free tuition. You've seen that was in 2023, 2024, and into 2025, you see we're talking about piloting the school bus program. So that we recognize transportation is an issue, because even if the students can go to TAMCC for free, but they live in Guelph and they can't afford the bus, or the bus system is inadequate, then it means they may still not be able to go to TAMCC. So we recognize we have to address that issue as well. But transportation is expensive. It's obviously run by the private sector, and we have to work with them. So that's
medium to long-term perspective. Please explain. We need an explanation for that. That's just not to say that the leader of His Majesty's opposition was correct. She was correct in what she was saying to you guys. You can't just do free tuition, and that everyone do not need free tuition. So use the money that you're giving to those who do not need it for transportation and school uniforms. And so it's nothing. So it's not what they say, rocket science. It's not rocket science. Now, in a note from a school, you see this thing. The school. Let's get that there. Where is it? The ministry, it says here, after giving the price of the books that they have to purchase, $109, $42, $39, that $90. The Ministry of Education informed us by memo that they will be providing approved textbooks in electronic versions for Form 1s and 2 students. As a result, hard copies of certain texts are available for purchase. Thank you for your understanding. We value your continued support. Now, what I'm saying here is that they have books to purchase as well. So when you give in free tuition and somebody don't have books, what they're going to school to do? Look at the palm of their hands? The notice from the school said that the ministry will provide approved textbook in electronic versions, right? To Form 1s and 2s. Students from 1 and 2s, right? Now, I was ready to go with this episode yesterday, as usual, right? When I learned of the press conference that was to be held on Wednesday. So I put off my recording and I waited because it was all about school and it's back to school and I was dealing with education. And I thought, well, I heard through the grapevine of certain statements that were going to be made, certain pronouncements, should I say. So I thought, let me pick that up. Now, after they promised the same ebooks, and that's what I was getting to when I read that statement from the school, saying that the ministry said they would provide the electronic books, right? Now, after they promised ebooks to the Form 1s and 2s of the secondary school, here is what the minister had to say at his press conference. Yes, and on Wednesday.
And we are ensuring that the grade of the devices, the grade of the laptops, they're really strong and durable. And students will be provided, Form 1 and 2 students will be provided with that. The students who already have the devices, the other devices, will get to keep them, because we want to phase in improvements to e-learning within the system in a very sustainable manner. So we don't want to just broadside everything. We want to systematically do this, and we've chosen to do that with the Form 1s and 2s. So they would get a laptop, but they would also receive e-books, electronic copies of the books in keeping with the book list. Now, and that's a major improvement, because previously there were some versions of e-books, but they never aligned with the book list. They were e-books that we were told had comparative content material to the curricula. But we found that the uptake for those, the uptake was not as good, simply because teachers had double work. They had to go to their textbooks, and probably they found it on page 12, and they had to go through the e-book and say, well, that content is likely to be found on page 32. So students had to face this double work, teachers had to face the double work, and we think that was one of the contributing factors to the low uptake of the e-books. But now, this problem will be eliminated, because the e-books that are going to be installed on the devices will be the e-books in keeping with the actual book list recommended textbooks. And so those will be in the core subject areas. There'll be mathematics, English A and B, geography, social studies, integrated science, agricultural science, home economics, Spanish, French, textiles and clothing and fashion. All of these books will be available in e-copy, uploaded on the laptop that will be provided to all Form 1s and 2 students. For the other students, the book program continues as per usual. The rental services that continue to exist, circulating the books in the system, that continues. And in some cases, we have been able to replenish the stock of some books, so those will continue. Interestingly, the laptops, let me get back to that, will be made available to students and their parents through a cost-sharing arrangement. Now, it's been our experience that persons appreciate things better when, for some reason, they pay some measure for it. And we found that under the previous models where they were just totally given, many of them were broken, many of them were mistreated. And while we do not want to make the cost-sharing arrangement prohibitive, what we are going to do with the permission of the cabinet is to make sure that the government, the ministry, absorbs the greater part of the cost. So it might be as much as out of every $10, we might pay $6 or $7 and the person would have to pay $4. Just to make sure that we make it easy for every person to acquire their laptop, and then it becomes yours. It's not the ministry's laptop. It will be your laptop once you complete that 30 or 40% payment, as we will finally communicate to you. But we would have a guarantee, a warranty of 3 years in keeping with manufacturer's specification. So if anything were to happen, the ministry will still assist in ensuring that replacements are done in keeping with the warranty. If it's found to be negligence and all of that, of course, once the person completes payment, it will be their laptop. And if parents feel they don't want to be part of this arrangement, they're free to say so. But we just feel it's a very useful way as we seek to modernize the educational landscape and make access to education and the digital learning space a lot more readily available for our teachers and our students. So I'll rest here.
Now, just to go back to the free school book program, and they get replenished, and you could, unless the books that they replenished was for hand-picked students, that's a lie. Parents have been calling the schools have been telling parents that they do not have books. Up to yesterday, after he said so, there are parents that called back and they were told they don't have no books in that program. So that's a lie. Now, the e-book story and the purchasing of the tablets, of the computer. So what he's saying there, in effect, is that every year now, they would have to purchase new tablets, because if the parents are sharing the cost and the children have to keep the tablets after they pay for it, then every year it would cost, it's broke, they're broke. They're broke, they can't afford, they realize they can't afford to purchase computers for every child from 1s and 2s in the secondary schools on their own. So they come begging now for the parents to share the cost. Broke, they're broke. It has nothing to do with how a child take care of the computer. If you know your mother pay 40% of a computer, if you're a child that takes care of your computer or your things, whether your parents pay 10 cents or 50 cents or $500, you would take care of it the same way. So that's hogwash about if they know they spend for it, they're going to take care of it. What we find, that is hogwash. Or I never heard some people so deceptive and come up with all kind of foolish stories. Nonsense. You're broke and you're broke. You cannot afford to pay for the computers on your own. So just say so. And if the parents don't want to be a part of the program, they don't have to be. So what after that? They have to purchase the hard copies. Where are the hard copies? You did not give the bookshops the book list. And then you had put out a release saying to parents who were purchasing hard copies to stop. Remember that? You guys don't know your elbow from your knee. Right? Now today on this 99th hour, the government of Grenada is asking parents to pay a portion to share the cost of the computers. And the reason being, according to the minister, that the kids will care for the computers more. The Minister of Education, David Antwi, also said he was happy to announce that the schools are ready and scheduled. They're already on schedule to open on Monday, the 1st September. Let's hear what he had to say.
Now, I quickly want to talk about the reopening of school, and we are happy to announce that all schools are scheduled to be reopened on Monday, September 1st, 2025. All schools across Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique are scheduled to be reopened on Monday, 1st September 2025. We are always keen on ensuring that we minimize and we eliminate the unnecessary delays in reopening of school, since we want to ensure that we maximize on the contact time for the teaching learning process. So all schools will be opened, and in fact, teachers have already assumed their positions within the last week, and they've reported since the 25th of August to facilitate effective planning during that period. So thanks to all of them, and we look forward to a full reopening of school on the 1st of September. Just to let you know that there are some schools across Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique where there are some upgrades, infrastructural upgrades taking place, none of which, I'm quick to say, will interfere with the planned reopening of school. So those infrastructural upgrades are simply for the purposes of information that, as you will be aware, we have the Grenada Christian Academy being constructed in the Pearls area. We have the St. Andrew's Anglican Primary School. The construction is taking place, and there were some adjustments that had to be made, but that too is behind us, and we will see full resumption in shortest of the St. David's Catholic Secondary School. That is ongoing. We have started some work at the Caliste Government School, so that's ongoing as well. Florida Government, we have started some preparatory work for relocation of students and the eventual reconstruction of a new building there. So all of these upgrades are taking place, but I repeat, they are not going to interfere with the planned reopening of school. Contingencies have been put in place to ensure that school continues in all of those circumstances. And in fact, the constructions are taking place off the sites where school is taking place in most of these instances. There are some other...
Folks, I showed you the site, the space where what was done so far, where the St. David's Catholic School would be built last week. There's nothing happening there. The same for the St. Andrew's Anglican Secondary Primary School. This man, that's in his constituency, well, where he ran. He got licks, but that's where he ran. He should know that is barong bush growing on the inside. Nothing happening there. It might start soon, I don't know. But as we speak, nothing is happening there. For him to say that work is continuing, that things are happening, it is false. They continue to lie for us. Now, this Florida government school, the school have issues. And so the children, they were supposed to build temporary schools for the relocation of the kids so that they can work on the old school, so to speak. Look on your screen and you would see that is of yesterday what it looks like. So they have 2 more days to prepare for the Florida government school, for the kids to attend school in that, what you see there. Talk, 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 lies, lies, lies. I mean, I don't understand it. Why the lies? We can see there are people living in Florida, the children have to go to school. They know that it's not ready. So the children might well have to go back into the old school until that is ready and then transfer. Now let's say the permanent secretary, Mrs. St. Louis Ned.
And it is my duty at this point in time to give a bit of update, to follow on with the updates that have been so far provided regarding programs that we have, initiatives that we have within the Ministry of Education to support the students as they go back into school. Now, the Ministry of Education, we are quite big on access to quality education. That is a priority for the ministry, ensuring that every student has access to quality education. And a lot of what I would present at this time falls squarely within that, making sure that every student has access to education, but not just any education, a quality education.
So to begin, an update on the School Supplies and Uniform Assistance Program. We are very pleased to let the public know that this program continues, and to date we have had 2,750 applicants in the system, for which we have already issued 2,326 QR codes. Now, for those of you who have participated in this program before, you will know that the QR codes are necessary for you to go to the various stores to purchase the school supplies for the children. So you present it, it gets scanned, you're able to walk away with the materials for the students, ensuring that they have what they need for the start of school.
So, of course, you know, the parents, from what information reached me, that they didn't know how to apply to get the help, because it used to be in the schools and now you have to do it to the ministry and they put it on your phone and all the drama. Now, when I heard the figure, 2,750 applicants, and she's stressing on it as if, wow, so many people, so many families have applied. 2,750 applicants in all of Grenada for school uniform. Okay? Now let's hear what she had to say on the school feeding program.
I'd like to give an update also on the school feeding program. Now, we know that in the previous year or so, we have had some hiccups. The Ministry of Education will be the first to admit that the program is not a perfect one in terms of implementation, meaning that we have had glitches and we have had challenges. But we are pleased to say that we have had a 60% increase in the number of students accessing the program over the last 2 years. So that our numbers to date stand at 16,000 children who access the program on a daily basis. Expenditure in excess of $3 million so far. We have continued to provide support for the program in terms of, over the last year, the last academic year, purchases of new equipment, appliances, utensils, etc. In Carriacou, for instance, where a lot of what we had before was lost, we were able to restore many of them, and we continue to add to our supplies and stock. We'd like to let the public know also that as of today, supplies have already been delivered to many schools in preparation for the start of school. So it is the expectation that when school begins on Monday, the school feeding program will be in full swing.
Now, she said over the past 2 years, they've had a 60% increase in persons wanting to join the program. Now, that says a lot for the rise in poverty in this country. 60% increase. And plus, they didn't have food to give them. 60% more. Now, when I heard she said 16,000 children accessed the school feeding program on a daily basis, 16,000. Now we're talking figures. In comparison to 2,700 children for the school uniform. Now, what does that say? Right? If you can't feed your children, you can't buy uniform for your children. So that uniform program is flawed. That means a number of parents, a number of children who need school uniforms will not be getting school uniforms. And it is expensive, $30 for a shirt. You can buy a pair of pants, right? 16,000 children needs food, but only 2,700 children need school uniform. Something wrong. And if the Ministry of Education can't see that something wrong with that figure, with those figures and the comparisons, they have no right coming to us in a press conference to say that, and you stressing like and saying, oh, not everybody get the vouchers yet, but it will be coming when? Today is Friday. Yesterday was the press conference. When? Now, for the school feeding program that they say is back in full swing, we don't know that yet. The school didn't start yet. According to one school, as information reaching me, they got 10 cases of chicken. What they eating? Chicken and chicken and chicken? 10 cases of chicken. And when the chicken done what? So let's give it time. Let's see if you're really back in full swing and can feed 16,000 children on a daily basis without the aid of the dollar a day. Let's see that. Folks, the Ministry of Education is a train wreck. It has diminished. It is deteriorating. It has, I mean, I can't get words to explain from what I see and hear from themselves what is going on at the Ministry of Education. I mean, we had questions, and from the only media person who asked questions, although most of them were there, from Miss, of course, Linda Straker. And I want to say thank you again, Linda Straker, for your service when it comes to the Fourth Estate. We say thank you. I'm running out of time. I'm unable to bring you these questions. Well, I've run out of time. And the reason why I am really, trying to deal with the time these days, the people on MTV, they lose out when we go into all 3 hours. But I couldn't help it today. I needed to bring this to you. I stayed back yesterday just to get the press conference and to hear what they had to say to you. And so we'll have to pass on Linda's questions today. But if you get the chance to bring it back at some point, because I'll make something and I would have to use that. I want to just, as I close, call on the Governor General and the Prime Minister of Grenada, asking for an independent commission of inquiry into Andy Williams and his MIT ministry, not just for the bribery, but we need special auditing of that ministry, the Ministry of MIT, and the movement of monies taking place in that ministry, where service providers are being called to change checks, and the ministry collecting the cash. And 2 and 3 service providers are changing checks for the same project, the same job. Also, the monies that are the grants that are passing through MIT, and the service providers that are being given contracts that are padded, and then being told, well, you had to give me a 2,000 or 5,000 in that. You had to bring back this for me. When you get the money, you have to share. You have to give me back. Folks, these are not stories. These are of kids. Those are not Tim Tims. Those are true stories. And it is going on, and I'm speaking about it, and the media is not looking into it. The so-called accredited journalists, they're not looking into it. The Prime Minister has turned a blind eye because nobody is perfect, and he don't expect the politicians to be perfect. So it's okay for them to steal our monies, right? And it's just keep happening. It just keeps happening. And we need an investigation. We need a commission of inquiry, folks. This needs to stop, or we need to have this NDC administration out of office. We can't continue so. They're broke. They don't have money to run the country. And they're making all sorts of excuses and sending all kind of dumb people speaking nonsense. I hate to use words like that, but it is obvious. I'm sorry. To tell us lies and to pull wool over our eyes. That's a wrap on today's episode of Simon Says. It's always a pleasure conversing with you, trying to keep them honest. Thank you for viewing yet another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. See you next week, Thursday, back to normal. Same time, same place. Bye now.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.